it could be you hungry. It could be you homeless. It could be you facing, honest to goodness, frustration because there's a lot coming down on you and you don't have a way of just dealing with it. Maybe you don't have a good way of dealing with it. Well, the folks I've got with me in the studio today, they're working on a program, and again, it's called the Confess Project, to help folks who do have a lot of stuff that's just kind of getting to them, and ways to kind of help ease the problem, to get a way to talk about it or to do something that's going to make your life better. So I'm going to ask the two folks I've got in the studio with me right now, if you would please introduce yourselves, and one or both of you, if you would, give contact information about the Confess Project, how people can reach you.
I'm Lorenzo Lewis, CEO and founder of the Confess Project. Contact information, I can be reached at 501-960-0527. Our website is www.theconfessproject.com, or you can email us at info@theconfessproject.com as well.
Okay.
Our physical mailing address, you can find P.O. Box 45316, Little Rock, Arkansas 72214.
Fair enough. And guest number 2, please.
All right. I'm Stanley Giles, native of Little Rock, Arkansas, and I'm a content contributor for the Confess Project.
Well, let me ask you about any additional contact information. Are you answering the phones, like, say, only during regular business hours? Is there, like, someone really needs to talk, and it's 10, 11 o'clock at night, they can call in and find someone to talk with?
Yeah, so we would say our hours of operation is normal business time, but of course we also have contact information out on our website where we can be able to have discretion on actually reaching back out to that individual to be able to set up a phone conference or an appointment. Yes.
Gotcha. Now, am I correct in saying that the Confess Project is very, very willing to have people to come in to volunteer their services?
Yes, sir. We're always adaptive, looking for volunteers, looking for.
Well, who qualifies, and if they want to volunteer, how can they apply?
Well, we actually have an ambassador program. I want to put that out. What an ambassador is a model, what we call a model for the Confess Project, someone who is an advocate for the work that we're doing. This can be male or female, white, black, or any creed, as long as you are an advocate for wanting to help others and as well work in the space of being a mental health advocate. Is what the general requirements for being an ambassador.
Are there any other, say, like skills that the Confess Project is looking for, it really is in need of at this time, other than, say, maybe having experience with mental health?
I'd say really just working with kids, being culturally competent for a certain demographic, a certain age group, and not only a certain age group, but a certain age group that comes from a certain socioeconomic background.
Right. Now, if someone's not able to volunteer, okay, donations are also welcome.
Yes, sir. Donations are always welcome, and of course, we are a 501c3 entity.
Gotcha.
They are tax deductible. Yes, sir.
But if someone calls in and says, "Well, I don't have much money, but I've got some office supplies, or I've got some toiletries that I don't need," could y'all use things like that?
Oh, yes, very well indeed. As we are always preparing to be in an office setting or either working remote, depending on what capacity that person. But we're always looking for materials and equipment to keep us going forward.
Well, now, that kind of ties in with something else I wanted to ask. What I've read about the Confess Project, okay, for locally, you're centered on, say, for example, the North Little Rock area. But if someone, say from the Delta, calls in and they're saying, "Okay, I understand what you're trying to do. We need your expertise down here. Can you or someone from the Confess Project, say, drive down to Pine Bluff or Dumas or McGee or Fort Smith to kind of let us know what's going on, to kind of help us get the Confess Project started in these other areas?"
Yes, we have a well put staff for the most part. We have people that are available to that extent to want to know exactly what their need is. Again, we have to remember that we're focused more in the grassroots area, and we're extended to being an advocate and also by providing education and awareness. But depending on if it was anywhere towards the clinical part, that was something we will refer to our partners that we partner with here in Central Arkansas.
And if I can say, I know that most of the work has been happening here in the Central Arkansas area, but the Confess Project has also gone to Stillman College.
Yes.
So that rural community and higher ed community has already been tapped.
Yeah, so we're definitely wanting to explore other regions and other parts of the deltas and even the delta regions for sure. Yes.
And again, if someone is out there listening, and I've had some folks from the delta to come on and talk about some of the special needs, some of the special problems. If you're listening out there, you want to get hold of the Confess Project. Yes, they're willing to come to you. Would I maybe with one say requirement that there have to be like a minimum number of people in the area who will commit in advance to meeting with you, to coming out and hearing what you have to say?
Yes, I would definitely say that would be at a minimum of 10 people at least. We definitely could arrange something where we can come to that specific area, and depending on if it's some kind of presentation or a workshop curriculum or anything they would like to offer, we can arrange that, or even just to come out and just to have a conversation with that respected community in regards to what we can offer and what we can do for it.
Well, is that also something like what you do, say, with regular meetings, or do you have like any particular special events coming up?
Yeah, so actually today is, as the nonprofit is governed under the name of Ellinger Empowerment, the Confess Project is our initiative overall. So we have a scholarship that we do annually. It's actually named after myself, Lorenzo Lewis Scholarship, but it caters to students that's enrolled in historically black colleges, universities in Central Arkansas. And today we'll have our event at 6 o'clock at Arkansas Baptist College. Adjacent to that, we've in the past have worked to want to create men support groups, and that's something that I may see can be feasible for some of those areas, depending on if they're able to, have those specific groups of gentlemen that may want to be involved in what we call Confess sessions.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
And you say Confess sessions. Is that part like, say, a monthly meeting, or do you have like any other monthly or twice a month meetings where people can come in, sit down, talk with you, find out what the Confess Project is all about?
Yeah, so that is a monthly meeting. We've held that. We started about 3 months ago, roughly. And we had fair turnout. Again, I believe that's one of those targeted initiatives that we do monthly, that where people are looking for that safe and intimate space to open up in.
And again, do you have any other like special events that are going to be coming up? You mentioned the scholarship fund. Do you have anything that you'd like for folks to know about now for an event that's coming up, say maybe a couple of months down the line?
This upcoming spring, we will continue to explore the barbershop talks around mental health and minority males, black males in particular, inside the barbershops here in Central Arkansas. And we were one of the first groups to launch this conversation around mental health in the barbershops here in Central Arkansas, and I'm sure probably Arkansas abroad. With that being said, we will target a number of gentlemen this upcoming spring and plan to do work with several organizations to be able to build some measurable outcomes on how we can serve this population.
I want to get back to that barbershop project that you're talking about, but you talked about working with other groups. Are there any groups that are like full-fledged allies or partners with the Confess Project?
Yeah, so we do work with the Star Coalition. We've partnered with Inspirations Day Treatment, Woodland Research. We've actually partnered with Parts of the Solution. They're here in North Little Rock, Arkansas. Bishop Dwayne Robinson. We've so that's about it. Of course, we have a bunch of contributors in the area that contribute to the work, and as well as our team.
Like for example, I saw like what is it, the National Association of Mental, or NAMI, whatever it is.
NAMI, yes, sir.
Okay.
So we're not actually aligned with NAMI directly, but I am a member of NAMI individually. So what NAMI provides is, of course, the database of education abroad when it comes to data when you're talking about mental health and globally. In each chapter of each state possesses a chapter that also works conjointly with local communities.
Well, let me throw this open to both of you. Are there groups, types of groups that you'd really like to hear more from? That maybe there's some groups out there, man, I wish they'd listen to us. I wish they'd talk with us. I wish they'd partner with us because this would make our work a hell of a lot easier.
I work in higher ed, so I would definitely say institutions of higher education. I think we see a lot of addiction issues with college-age kids. We see a lot of suicide issues with college-age kids. And these are people who haven't really begun to live their lives. If we can address some things early, I mean, a lot of issues that people struggle with in their 20s, 30s, 40s, I think we can nip it in the bud in the teens if we were able to partner more with some of those institutions of higher ed.
Okay. Now, would you say that what you were just talking about, is that really the number one reason for the Confess Project? That would you say that that's the reason why there's a need for the Confess Project?
I would say that's what drew me to it. College graduate, so did the whole undergrad experience, traditional student. So I saw how students struggle with identity for a number of reasons. Identity. You want me to explain that?
Yeah, if you will.
Who you are, who you're supposed to be, in light of
how other people or other groups see you.
Absolutely. In light of how you were raised, in light of where you come from, in light of, did you come from money? Well, your career path should be this. Did you not come from money? Well, your career path definitely needs to be this.
And if you are from a minority, then your path has to be this, that, or the other.
True.
Gotcha. And it would be like, looking at stereotypes sort of like that, and maybe wrong information just kind of clinging to everybody. Okay, that's basically what you're doing with the Confess Project, that you could say you're doing differently and maybe more effectively from what, say, other similar groups are doing.
I think we have a niche. I think we've got a niche. Both Lorenzo and I are, like I said, both natives of Little Rock, Arkansas. We actually know each other's childhood. His mother and my grandmother ran beauty shops on Asher Avenue. So we go all the way back there. And because our upbringing and our rearing so similar, in many ways we see the world a particular way, and we can identify with some kids who see the world a particular way. And
I'm guessing, and correct me if I get this wrong, you're also able to use your own experiences, whether it has to do with travel, whether it has to do with work, whether it has to do with meeting someone at the right place and the right time. You're there and you can say, okay, I'm in a position to say maybe, been there, done that, but I'm also in a position to say that you have alternatives. You've got choices. And some of the choices are going to be not so good, but hear us talk about from our experience and let us see if we can help you to make choices that are going to be good for you.
True.
Yes, and I believe what you're tapping on is the motivational storytelling component of what we offer. Well,
was there an incident then, a particular incident that really hit one or both of you really hard? And that was kind of your motivation to start something like the Confess Project.
Yeah, so I like to always say that this project mirrors who I was as a young boy living here in Central Arkansas. By someone by the age of 21 losing both my biological parents, and of course just going through the trauma and the different effect of being able to verbalize my feelings caused me to go into a lot of different issues socially, involving gangs and other activities. Which I see in a lot of other black males here, and of course across the globe. So again, this project was mirrored from my own experience, but also understanding that the masculinity behind me not wanting to talk about these problems and what they created later on is a good part of why the project exists.
And I've heard it said, and again, correct me if I get any of this wrong, that there are many young men who will say, okay, I'm not getting what I think I should be getting from my family, and a gang, maybe at least at first, provides me what I'm needing, what I'm missing, what I'm not getting. Basic respect, basic trust, basic, say, a recognition of who I am.
Yes. Yeah, so I believe that what you're saying is just right. When it comes to, we're looking for that part of unity and trust, and what we do is after, and not necessarily saying that we have to sustain those issues to get to that point, but again, we're looking for a group of allies or people that believe in us holistically, and sometimes not even being able to have that mentor in place to be able to help guide. And again, I believe the Confess Project has a missile. We do not provide mentorship, but of course we provide the structure for someone to understand, okay, these are my issues, and these are the ways that I can handle my issues, and still giving them an alternative while being able to offer those. And
again, to be able to really speak from the perspective of saying, been there, done that.
Yes.
Again, I think we also need to be honest that, everybody's family is not, jacked up like that. Some kids are coming from a place, it doesn't have to be, monetary means, but they're coming from a place where love is abundant, where support is abundant. And even still, you got 6 to 10 hours a day that you're out of the house because you're at school. And the question is, how do you navigate that space? Where is your acceptance in that space?
Gotcha.
Where is your hierarchy or, your status within that space? Because mama's going to love you.
Well, but there are going to be some people out there who are maybe listening in, and maybe they're going to kind of be turned off a little bit. Oh, the Confess Project? You mean I'm going to have to? Well, I was mixed up with some other boys who did some bad things. Do I have to confess that? So there are probably going to be some who are going to hear that word confess. Whoa, I ain't going to go there. So how would you counteract that? Why, in the way you're using it, why use the word confess?
Honestly, I look at it as another way of saying, or we could just say it this way: speak your truth. Whatever your truth is, speak your truth. I think that's what keeps a lot of people in bondage. People never get a chance to speak their truth. They're holding on to what's real to them. They're putting on a mask, putting on a facade, and it's tearing away at them inside.
And it's my understanding that, there's that case in California that's still making the news about the parents who kept their 13 kids chained up, and because maybe, and again I'm speculating, maybe there's going to be some people out there who are going to say the parents and maybe the children themselves, because they were not exposed to any other way of doing things, that becomes the norm. That becomes, and they're trapped in there. Like I've heard so many people say that they grew up in a household where one spouse abused the other, and when they grow up, that's the norm because they've never seen anything except that.
Well, and I can agree, because you have to also look at the barriers that's taking place socially with that. In particular, when you say that these 13 children per se, haven't ran across the article. I've had someone we've talked about it. You have to think about the extremities and socially what's taking place, but also not being able to offer that point of being vulnerable, and I believe that's important when raising any children, and of course when especially raising the targeted children that we're talking about, and black children, in perspectives to say that, hey, we must give them that space. But again, everyone deserves a voice and deserves this form of equality when you're talking about being open and being
and opportunity.
Correct.
And if I could get back on my higher ed soapbox, that's what I love about the college experience. You come from one particular place, or maybe multiple places. Maybe you've moved around a bit, but that's the place where you actually get a culture shock, because somebody from Dumas mixes with somebody from Los Angeles, and somebody from Chicago mixes with somebody from New Mexico. You know, it's a class of culture, and I guess it goes back to what you were asking about what becomes a norm for a child, and how does that really dictate their lives when they get older.
Well, let me kind of share this with you. Some time ago, Ken Richardson, Little Rock City Board of Directors member Ken Richardson, was on this program, and he told a story that has really stuck with me for quite a long time now. He was going, this one particular summer, he was going to spend about 6 weeks, 2 months in England. And he'd gotten to know some late teens, early 20s, young men of color, and he knew that almost all of them had gang ties, that they were just really just lacking in opportunity to see a different way of doing things. And to top that, there were some who had really never been out of Little Rock in their entire lives. Well, he took, what was it, about 8, 10 of these young men with him to England. And when they got back, he told me, he told everybody who was listening in, that without exception, every single one of those young men broke their ties with the gang, went back to school at UALR or wherever, or some of them made the decision that they were going to go and get their GED. They were going to go and get their GED and then move on, because they had been directly exposed to an entirely different world.
I think in any environment, you learn what the norms are, and you learn what are the essentials for survival. That looks different in certain parts of Little Rock.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be the only way.
No, it doesn't. But I have to see something else. And that really speaks to the story that you just told us. When you see something else, now that's, I think of it like a buffet. Now it's really an option because I see it, because it's in front of me.
And one of the taglines I saw on your website, and this kind of ties in what we've been talking about, where you go with inspiring boys and men of color to be better emotionally.
Yes. So that, of course, that tagline is something that we've have built since the inception, and saying that, hey, this is a platform in ways that we can inspire the masses of black men and boys and men of color, particularly, to be better emotionally. It's saying that to say when you think about men and you think about data per se, to talk about how men are declined or inclined to not getting treatment. They're saying that this is the platform in case
or if I show emotions, I'm not a man.
Correct, and that's always has been a heavy saying in since the beginning of time, and so we're here to shift that narrative for sure.
Absolutely, we are not mental health professionals, but I think, in my opinion, the Confess Project is a segue into getting the type of treatment, the type of counseling, the type of therapy that a person needs. And if they see people who are willing to embrace them, no judgment, men of color will trickle in. Notice I said trickle.
But I'm guessing, and again, correct me if I get this wrong, you don't want a trickle, you want a flood.
Oh, yeah, we'll take a flood.
Okay, all right.
Better the impact for sure.
Well, how about this? Have you already begun to see results? Has someone gotten the help that you're talking about? And it's like they're a whole different person.
Oh, yes, for sure. We've been here May 13th, 2016 was our inception date. And since then, we have programmed with roughly, I say over time now, it's been a couple hundred individuals. And throughout those individuals, we've definitely received, through pre and post, studies showing that these individuals feel much differently now to conversate about mental health, feel now differently to receive the treatment that's necessary.
They're relating, can I say that they're relating much better with their friends, their relatives, their families, with pretty well everybody?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I get calls all the time from individuals, and of course I wouldn't disclose their names publicly, but that have said that, hey, this was something that changed and saved their lives. That they needed this intimate space to be able to be open, to have these resources and tools. Because again, I mean, let's be honest, how many people are in the trenches actually offering these resources to ultimately shift these individuals that we're constantly knocking about getting help, or so
particularly those who kind of have this denial that I don't need any help, I'm fine, and then they're crumbling on the inside.
If I can say something, I think that stems from some historic realities where communities didn't have the resources, and so a lot of mental health talk is relatively new. Research is happening every day, but if you're coming from dire economic situation, where's the money for that? Where's the money for that? And like I said, historically, people have just had to make do. That's the reason why the church has played such a critical part. And this was a conversation that really I got introduced to in my time in seminary. Graduate of Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary in Evanston, Illinois. And in that time, I took a class called Pastoral Counseling and Care. And within that class, we began to talk about mental health and how it manifests itself in the church. And then we had a particular segment where we focused on the Black church, because that within itself is a monster all to itself.
Well, hold that thought, because already we're at the bottom of the hour, and we're going to take a break. I've got a little bit of information to bring forward, and then we're going to get back into the second half of this week's edition of It Could Be You.